Our next speaker, Tony Gordon, is from Bristol, England. He is one of the best known and one of the most successful names in the whole world of financial services. Tony served as president of the $1 Million Roundtable a number of years ago, but has continued to serve the organization in many, many capacities. He was the first non-North American to have served as president in the 84-year history of the organization. Tony is a 34-year MDRT member with 33 top-of-the-table qualifications. He's also past president of the United Kingdom Life Underwriters, and he was past chair of the Top of the Table. Tony's spoken in over 50 countries, and he authored a great book called It Can Only Get Better, Tony Gordon's Route to Financial Sales Success. It's been translated into 8 different languages. Tony now focuses his time on mentoring other advisors, helping them achieve the success that he himself has achieved. Let's give an MDRT welcome to Tony Gordon.
It is wonderful to be back in my favorite Asian city. Yeah. This place is truly amazing. Every time I come back to Singapore, the place has changed. Yesterday I saw 3 skyscrapers with a ship parked on the roof. And what a great time for us to be holding this meeting. The beginning of your new year, a time when we all wish for prosperity for each other. So I know this is a few days late, but I want to join in the wish for prosperity for all of us and say, Kong Si Fa Chai. I want to congratulate you for making the investment in being here this week. Yes, it is an investment. When we attend an MDRT meeting, it is not a cost. It is an investment in our careers. But as an investment, we have to make it pay. How do we do this? By making certain that we find at least one idea from these 3 days, an idea we can take home and put into practice, something that will help us achieve greater success in our businesses. Now, the success of a meeting like this does not depend on what the speakers say from the stage. The success of this meeting depends on the ideas we take home and have the courage to put into practice. That was a wonderful introduction, and I thank you, Guy, for the introduction. 34 years an MDRT member, 33 years, top of the table member. Were you expecting someone a little more impressive, taller perhaps? Yeah. Past president of MDRT, but perhaps you're expecting an intellectual. Well, let me tell you what you don't know about me. This giant of our profession left school at 16 years of age. I hadn't planned on leaving school at 16. They told me I couldn't come back. There was 1 year at the end of the year when I managed to score 10% in the maths exam. 10%. I thought my father will beat me. So I took the report home, held the envelope over a boiling kettle, steamed open the envelope. And I thought, what can I change the 10 into? I could make the 1 into a 7 and have 70%. But he'd never believe me. So I turned the 1 into a 4. Now I had 40%. My father said 40% and beat me. My school life was so difficult. In the 45-year history of the school I attended, I was placed in a unique group of 3. Boys who will never be a success at anything. We must never allow others to sit in judgment on our potential. Let me tell you what happened to those 3 boys who would never become a success at anything. The first became a professional golfer, won the British Open, made a fortune designing, building golf courses around the world, still commentates on British television for every major golfing event. The second became an author and has over 40 best-selling thriller novels to his credit. And the third became the president of the $1 Million Round Table. We must never let others make judgments about our potential. I came into this business at age 22. Do you think that maybe I'd found my true vocation? A profession in which I could fulfill my potential? I needed 43 sales appointments to make my first sale. In my second month in the business, I closed 6 sales. And by the end of the month, they had all canceled. After 4 years, I tried to quit. The only reason I stand here today is nobody would offer me a job. I don't know why you laugh at that. I thought if I applied to join a new company, it might help my career. And they put me through a personality test. And when I went back for the second interview, there was the test paper on the manager's desk, and written across the front it said, "This man is not suited to a career in the sale of life insurance." It took me 8 years to make it to MDRT, but then to the top of the table. This is not an easy business. Millionaires are not queuing up to join our business. But some of the people who join our business become millionaires. There are people today in this audience, could it be you, or maybe you, who in the future will look back and remember today and remember the speaker who said, "I'd become a millionaire," and he was right. So what can we learn from the most successful in our business? Well, we can learn from their positive attitude. "Oh, Tony, it's not fair. My biggest prospect wouldn't buy from me yesterday. Hey, I had the blues because I had no shoes, until on the street I met a man who had no feet. Nobody promises us life will be fair." It was Einstein who said, "Knowledge is important, but for success, enthusiasm is essential." How is our attitude? "But Tony, don't you understand there's a recession on?" Of course I understand. There's a recession every 8 to 10 years. This is the 5th in my career. Every recession is the same. "Oh, no, this one's different." "Oh, no, it's not different." The causes of recession are all different. The results of recession are all the same. Markets go down, and then markets go back up again. In every recession, there is an opportunity for all of us to be heroes for our clients if we persuade them that now is a good time to invest. And recessions, my friends, are voluntary. We do not have to join them. The most successful in our business, you'll notice, always seem to have higher activity. They make the most calls. This may surprise you, but MDR team members, on average, make twice the number of calls as the average for our business. Twice the calls. But they average 4 times the income. 4 times the income for twice the effort. I think that's a fair result, don't you? And is there a moral to this? Absolutely there is. The moral is simple. The big producers first learn to have high activity, and then they learn how to make the sales larger. So first, learn to have high activity. I can remember my first day in the business. I said to my manager, "What do I have to do to guarantee I succeed?" He said, "See 15 people a week." I said, "What if I only see 14? He said, "With 14, you might succeed, but with 15, I'll guarantee it." Now, I am not suggesting everybody in this room should make 15 appointments a week. It's up to you to decide how many appointments are right for you. But I want you to imagine for a moment we all were to make 1 more appointment each week. Just 1. Imagine what would happen. 1 more appointment each week. That's, say, 45 for the year. Let's say 35 of the appointments are there when we call. Of the 35, let's say 10 or 12 of them do business with us. Now, I'm told that the average commission per sale here in Singapore is about 2,000 Sing dollars. So 10 or 12 extra sales this year, that's about 20 to 25,000 extra dollars per year in income. I want you to picture this. When you go home after this meeting and you talk to your much beloved, your husband, your wife, your partner, say to them, darling, the speaker said, if I make 1 more appointment each week, just 1 more appointment each week, you can have an extra $25,000 to spend this year. What do you think your darling will say? I know what my darling would say. Make 2. It's been said that to succeed in life we need vision and we need action. If our action is our activity, where will we find our vision? It's in our goals. Our goals are a route map, and the destination is the success we want for ourselves. Why are goals so important? Let me share this story with you. I am a grandfather. I know what you're thinking. I'm much too young to be a grandfather. But I am a grandfather. Now, in my country, at the end of the summer term at school, every school has a sports day where all the children run races against each other. And I went to my 4-year-old granddaughter's first school sports day. Picture this, if you will. The teacher surrounded by these beautiful little children. About 25 meters along what is obviously the running track, 2 older pupils holding a tape across the track. And all the proud mums and dads and grandmas and papas standing waiting to cheer our own. And the teacher says to the children, when I say go, I want you to run as fast as you can. Are you ready? Set. Go! And they scattered in every direction. Because they didn't have a goal. We need a goal, we need a vision of what we want to achieve from our life in this business. What do I want to achieve for myself, for my family? A vision so clear in our minds we can touch it, taste it, see it. Then we need to break it down. What do I have to do each year, each month, each week, each day? That if I repeat it day after day will bring my vision, my dreams to reality. Yes, daily goals. Why daily? Because daily goals gives us a sense of urgency to do now, today, what needs to be done today. When I first wanted to qualify for MDRT, I realized that I needed to make a sale every day. I needed 4 appointments a day. I'd go to the first appointment, he'd want to think it over. I'd go to the second appointment, he'd be a client of Guy Baker. He'd be the client of Guy Baker. I'd go to the third appointment and he wouldn't be there. Does that ever happen where you live? God help the 4th appointment, because the goal is to sell today. Setting daily goals gives us a sense of urgency to complete today what needs to be done today. Now, I accept that it is difficult to set daily goals. It takes great courage. It is much easier to have a goal for the year. We only have to face failure once a year. It's the end of the year, the last day of the year. If I can remember where I put the piece of paper with my goal written down, I'll know if I failed or succeeded this year. But if we have a daily goal, we have to go home at the end of every day and face ourselves in the mirror and ask the question, did I succeed or did I fail today? It takes great courage, but I'll give you a guarantee. Those who have the courage to set daily goals will always be more successful than those who don't. You want to qualify for MDRT? Let's use Singapore as an example. 111,000 Sing dollars in first-year commission. That's $10,000 a month. It's $2,500 a week. If, like me, you would prefer to do your selling on 4 days of the week, it's $600 a day. Question for you. How many appointments do you need to make certain you earn $600 in a day? Then make them. Make them. Now, if our goals and our activity are the building blocks of our success, where is the mortar that will bind it all together? It is in our discipline. See, we can succeed for many reasons in this business, but only one reason we will ever fail: lack of discipline. The difference between being where we are and achieving what we would like to achieve is all in the word discipline. Successful people discipline themselves to do the things the less successful don't like doing. I choose my words carefully. I'm not saying that the most successful people like to do the things the less successful don't enjoy. We discipline ourselves to do those things whether we like doing them or not. The job is not difficult. What is difficult is making ourselves get out of bed in the morning and disciplining ourselves to make the calls. There are no extraordinary people in this business, but there are some ordinary people who discipline themselves to achieve extraordinary results. Our success does not come by closing easy sales. Our success comes when we lose hard-fought ones and have the courage and the discipline to come back and fight again. That greatest of all Olympic athletes, Stephen Redgrave, the greatest Olympic athlete because he is the only athlete in the history of the Olympic Games to win a gold medal at five consecutive Olympics. He was asked, is it the iron in the supplements athletes take that helps them succeed? He said, no, it's not the iron in the supplements that brings success. It's the iron in the mind that brings success. The discipline, the iron in the mind. If we are to take just one lesson from these 3 days, just one lesson, be more disciplined and we'll be more successful. If we focus on our discipline, if we increase our discipline, then greater success will follow. And do we believe in what we do? We don't get paid for delivering policies. We get paid for delivering proceeds. Now, I know we receive our commission when we make the sale, but we earn our commission when we deliver the benefits. My last death claim, we paid out in Sing dollars about 2 million Sing dollars to a 48-year-old husband and father of 2. I didn't sell him a $2 million policy. He'd been a client for 15 years. I'd sold him many small policies. He was a very popular man. There were over 400 people at his funeral, all of us bringing condolences. Only one bringing money, me. You cannot pay off a mortgage with condolences. You cannot educate your children with condolences. You cannot put food on the table with condolences. Only the money does those things. We should never undervalue what it is we do for our clients, for no one will ever place a higher value on us than we place upon ourselves. I had a client who was a composer. He composed classical music. And I said to him one day, I find it amazing the way the notes in classical music seem to flow so smoothly. And he said, oh yes. He said, we composers have a saying that the notes should seem inevitable. And it occurred to me that we should have a saying in our business that our success should be inevitable. Do we believe in the inevitability of our own success? It is our self-belief which will set the limits for our achievements. It's interesting, but that greatest of all golfers, Jack Nicklaus, after he first won the British Open, was asked, when did you think you were going to win? He said, when I walked the course before the first round. The greatest of all flat racing jockey, Lester Piggott, went to America to ride a horse in the Kentucky Derby. For my American friends, it is Derby. And he won. And he was asked afterwards, when did you realize you were going to win? And he said, well, when I bought the airplane ticket. Do we believe in the inevitability of our success? In the 1968 Olympic Games, Mexico City, an amazing thing happened. There was an American athlete, Bob Beamon, a long jumper. Now you have to understand that in the long jump, records are broken like this, a centimeter, half an inch at a time. And something amazing happened, because Bob Beamon broke the world record by this much, by almost 2 feet, by 55 centimeters. And here's how he described how he did it. He said, when I prepared to jump, he said, what I would do is I would walk down the runway. I would take a look at the jumping pit. I'd take off my cap. I'd fold it up, and I would place it at the side of the sand pit where I believe I could jump to. Then slowly I would pace out my run-up. And while he was pacing out his run-up, one of the groundsmen was sweeping the sand back into the sand pit from the previous jump and swept his hat 55 centimeters further up the pit. And as he started his run-up, he could see where he believed he could jump to. He believed it. And he succeeded in doing something quite amazing. Do you know it took 23 years before Beamon's record was broken, and then only by this much? If we want to achieve greater success, why don't we try moving the cap of our self-belief and see what happens? We have to be prepared to invest in ourselves. Brian told us yesterday that it is production that gets us into MDRT. It's attending the annual meeting that gets MDRT into us. My first MDRT meeting, it had taken me 8 years to qualify. I had to go to the meeting. I thought maybe it was a fluke, maybe it was just luck. I may never be able to qualify again. I must go and find out what happens there. But my first annual meeting was in Hawaii. Now, 34 years ago, Hawaii did not feature in holiday brochures in my country. I went home and I said to my wife, Eve, I said, darling, I've qualified for MDRT. I'm going to Hawaii. And she said, we are going to Hawaii. So Eve and I and our 2 little babies took the 27-hour journey to my first MDRT meeting. Cost me 20% of my previous year's income. But when we go to an MDRT meeting, it is not a cost, it is an investment in our careers. What did I learn? I learned the importance of self-belief. I met a man with a white ribbon. It said, top of the table. I said, what's this? He said, well, it's a club within the club. I said, what do I have to do to qualify? He said, oh, it's easy. You just do 6 times the MDRT qualification. I said, 6 times? It's taken me 8 years to do it once. You know, I think that when I die, hopefully not for a long time, but when I die, if they open me up, they will find engraved on my heart the words he said that day. We can achieve anything we want to achieve in this business if we'll just have the courage to believe we can achieve it. Anything can be achieved in this business if we just have the courage to believe we can achieve it. I thought, is this all I have to do? Just believe I can achieve it? I went home from that meeting. I tore up all of my goals, made new goals to make the top of the table. Was I right to set bigger goals? Of course. It's better to try and not succeed than not to try. If I'd have fallen short, I would still have been ahead of where I would otherwise have ended up. Same office, same company, same clients. What changed? What changed was my perception of what could be achieved. It truly is our self-belief that will set the parameters for our achievements. I sometimes wonder where I would be if I hadn't actually set the goal to qualify for MDRT, broken it down to a monthly, a weekly, a daily goal, discovered the amazing power of setting daily goals, then attended my first meeting where my self-belief and everything that follows, the success and the income, where would I be if I hadn't have done all of those things? But thankfully I did. Will you? And you know, the most successful in our business always think bigger. Because bigger does not mean more complicated. Bigger just means bigger. I'm going to ask you a strange question for a country like Singapore. Does anybody here like to ski? Now, of course, it's a strange question because you have no mountains and the temperature never drops below 30 degrees. But we all know what skiing is, don't we? Crazy people climb a mountain, they stick polished pieces of wood on their feet and they throw themselves off. Here's a question for you. When they ski, do they ski uphill or do they ski downhill? Answer? Downhill, of course. Second question, why? Because it's easier to ski downhill. I want you to remember this. When you're preparing a presentation or an illustration for a prospect or client, always ask for the biggest sum assured. Ask for the biggest premium. If you take a small illustration, you cannot get the client to ski uphill to where they should be. But if you ask for the biggest, ask for all of their money to invest, not just part of it, they will ski down to where they are comfortable. Have the courage to think bigger. And please, stop telling people what they need. Start asking what they want. If, God forbid, I don't make it home from this meeting, my family do not need the homes we have. They don't need the cars we drive. But I would want them to be able to live in the world I created. What our prospects and clients want for themselves and their families will always be greater than just their needs. When my younger daughter finally left home, I said to Eve, darling, we don't need this big house anymore. Why don't we move to something more modest? And she said, we may not need it, but this is where I want to live. She also said, you move if you want to, but I'm staying. You know, it's interesting. Two people rattling around in a house with 5 bedrooms. It's where we want to live. There are 3 cars in our drive. There are only 2 of us there. It's what we want. What our prospects and clients want will always be greater than just their needs. It repositions us. When we tell somebody what they need, we are selling to them. When we ask them what they want, we're helping them to buy. It's a very small difference, but oh, what a big difference it can make in our production. Is it difficult to do? No. Tell me, what do you want as income for yourself when you don't want to work anymore? What would you want from your capital? What would you like as income for your family in the event of your untimely death? What do you want? What do you want? I'll tell you how effective it can be. There's a young man in the UK who first qualified for the top of the table 8 or 9 years ago. Now, I'd never met him before, but I went up to him, I congratulated him, and I asked him what he'd done to achieve this great success. And he said, well, Tony, I took your advice. I said, but we've never met before. He said, no, but I was sitting in the back of the room at a meeting when you said, stop telling people what they need and start asking them what they want. He said, it's the only change I made, and my business went up by over 40%. Over 40% from such a small change. I've put this story in virtually every speech I've made ever since. And I was speaking at MDRT about 3 years ago, and I told this story. And he came up to me afterwards, and he said, Tony, I'm the young man in your speech, aren't I? I said, yes, you are. He said, Tony, I owe you an apology. When I told you my business went up by over 40%, I lied to you. I said, why did you lie to me? He said, because my business went up by over 100%. I didn't think you'd believe me. We must take responsibility for our own success. Over 400 years ago, the English philosopher Francis Bacon wrote these words: "The measure of a person's fortune lies in their own hands." Folks, the measure of our fortune lies in our own hands. If things are not going the way you would like them to go, it isn't your company's fault. It isn't your manager's fault. And it isn't the government's fault. In my country, it might be the government's fault. We have to take responsibility for our own success. If it is to be, it is up to me. Absolutely. And please, don't say that the speakers this week have not motivated you. It is not our responsibility to motivate you. When I got out of bed in my hotel room this morning, my sole responsibility was to motivate me. If we will take responsibility for our own motivation, then some of it will rub off on the people we work with in the office or our clients. And don't people prefer to spend their time with people who make them feel good? Well, my time with you today is just about done. So I have a question for you. When you go back to your homes, to your families, or to your offices, what are you going to tell them about the speakers? What are you going to tell them about this speaker? I'd like to think that you tell them you met a man who 42 years ago needed 43 sales appointments to make a sale, who in his second month made 6 sales and by the end of the month they all canceled, who tried to quit the business after 4 years and couldn't find another job. Took 8 years to make MDRT, but went on to make the top of the table year after year. Became the president of the $1 Million Round Table. And your family or your friends, your colleagues will say to you, they'll say to you, yes, 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 very interesting, but did he have a message? You can tell them that my message is very simple. Tell them I said, if I can do it, so can you. If I can do it, so can you. Sit here.